Rich man's shock when waitress responds FLUENTLY in 5 languages. You won't believe her. The dimly lit bistro on West 42nd was buzzing with low murmurs, each breath of conversation layered in delicious tension. The clinking of glasses bounced around the walls, creating an intoxicating rhythm. Then, the door swung open, and he walked in the kind of man who reeked of money, tailored suits, and an air of importance that made heads turn. The instant he stepped inside, the atmosphere thickened, as if the universe held its breath. But not for long. He wasn't just any rich guy. He was an investor with a reputation for seeking out the extraordinary, and what he found was beyond bizarre. Across the room, a waitress moved with a grace that seemed out of another world. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and mystery. She was petite, but there was something about her, an energy that felt electric. Just as the rich man waved her over, she looked up. "What can I get for you, sir?" she asked. But the words that followed sent chills down spines. In flawless Mandarin, she continued, "What would you like to drink?" Then, without missing a beat, she switched to Spanish, throwing out a quick, "Algo más KDC." Patrons nearby gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief. Whispers spread through the crowd. Was she a spy? An international agent? With every language that flowed from her lips, French, Italian, and even a hint of Russian, she drew the rich man deeper into her world. His guarded demeanor slipped as he leaned in, listening intently. The other diners couldn't help but steal glances, their faces a mix of admiration and skepticism. Was this some kind of elaborate joke or a beautiful reality? The waitress was a tantalizing enigma that everyone wanted to decipher. Each response she gave felt like a riddle. Her laughter could light up the stifled air. But what was more shocking was the calm in her eyes, the kind that suggested she knew more than she let on. The rich man's heart raced. He needed to understand her, to uncover the layers like an artist revealing a masterpiece. But did she even want to be understood? That was the question lingering over everyone's head. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the rich man tried to engage her, his hopes flickered like a candle in the wind. "What is your story?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The bustling noise of the restaurant faded, his heart pounding in his ears. She paused, a smirk playing on her lips, and for a moment, the world became silent. Her gaze held secrets. Then, with a glint of mischief, she leaned closer and said, "You really want to know?" The air crackled. What magic or chaos lurked in her past that had brought her to this moment? As the rich man's curiosity soared, the entire room leaned in. The door of possibilities swung wide open, but one question hung in the air. Would he step through it, or would mystery remain cloaked in shadows? The rich man's heart raced. Her words hung in the air like a delicate balloon, threatening to pop with even the slightest poke. "Yes, I want to know," he urged, leaning closer. The waitress's confident smile widened, her eyes glinting mischievously in the soft light. She seemed to savor the moment, as if drawing out every ounce of suspense. The crowd around them held their collective breath. Whispers floated on the air, each phrase thick with speculation. People were done with their meals, leaning in, fascinated by the drama unfolding before them. But the waitress was more than just a performer. She was the maestro of this intimate symphony, conducting the tension that wrapped around the room. Finally, she said, "Not everyone is ready for the truth." The words slid off her tongue like honey. The rich man's mind raced. What truth? The heat of multiple gazes made him feel exposed, like he was standing on a stage with no way to retreat. "Try me," he said, boldly, his voice steadier than he felt inside. The dim light caught the edges of her smile, and momentarily, he thought he glimpsed something deeper in her eyes, a flicker of fear mixed with excitement. "All right," she replied, a soft challenge in her tone. "But know that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." She paused, gauging his reaction. The members of the audience exchanged nervous glances, the room's dynamic shifting from mere intrigue to palpable tension. "Why are you here?" she asked suddenly, as if flipping the conversation. "What are you really seeking?" Her gaze pierced through him. It felt like she was reading his very soul, delving inside and exposing his vulnerabilities. He hesitated, his bravado waning. "I just want to invest in something extraordinary," he stuttered. "Something that's worth my time and passion." The words rushed out like a floodgate had opened. She chuckled lightly, but the sound was laced with something darker. "Ah, and herein lies the paradox. You search for something special, yet will the quest to know what's extraordinary lead you to darkness?" The room shuddered with intrigue, the other patrons hanging on every whimsical shift of her words. Those who had initially been skeptical were now enraptured. They could hardly believe how this strange interaction was unfolding before them. Before the rich man could respond, the air shifted abruptly as the door swung open once more. A tall figure, draped in shadows, slipped inside the bistro. The atmosphere thickened with apprehension as the crowd parted subtly, parting like water around a rock. The waitress's smile vanished as her gaze locked onto the newcomer. "Do you know him?" the rich man asked, but as he turned to the waitress, he was met with an expression of chill calmness that left him shivering inside. "I need to go," she answered slowly, pulling away from his grasp. "What is happening?" he blurted out, panic creeping into his voice. "Trust me," she whispered fiercely, glancing back at the figure now stepping further into the room. "Stay hidden. You don't want to get involved in this." Before he could comprehend her warning, the figure looked directly at him, eyes glistening like shards of ice. And just like that, the delicate web of intrigue spun dangerously out of control. Would he heed her warning, or would he plunge into the depths of the mystery that enveloped them both? The room seemed to pulse, the chatter of patrons drained to a whisper as the tall figure advanced. The rich man turned, but not before catching a final glimpse of the waitress, her back straight, tension rippling through her as she backed toward the kitchen. "Stay hidden," the words echoed in his mind, urging him to act. But one look at that stranger's cold gaze sent chills racing down his spine. Something primal surged within him, fight or flight. He took a deep breath and slipped out of his seat, heart pounding. Now he was enveloped in a haze of worry and curiosity. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to leave, to run far from this tension-filled scene. Yet his feet moved, drawn toward the figure whose presence felt like a dark omen in the bistro's warm ambience. Patrons around him shifted nervously, faces masked with confusion and fear. For a fleeting moment, the figure seemed distracted, examining the vibrant decor, the laughter that now felt marred. But then he turned sharply, locking eyes with the rich man. It was a gaze that could cut through steel, demanding an answer without uttering a single word. "Who are you?" he asked, voice shaky. The rich man felt tiny, exposed under that icy stare. "A consequence," came the smooth reply. The figure's lips barely moved, but the sound sent a jolt of recognition through the crowd, envisioning him as a specter from the shadows. "And maybe we should leave this alone," someone murmured from the back, echoing the rich man's own thoughts. But he couldn't tear himself away. Curiosity and a hint of bravado kept him rooted to the spot. "What do you mean, a consequence?" The figure took a step closer, grin widening just enough to reveal something sinister hiding beneath. "You've opened a door, and once it's opened he took another step, an unsettling air cloaking him like smoke. You must embrace what comes through." The rich man felt the walls closing in. Desperate, he looked for the waitress, hoping she would come to his rescue, but she was nowhere in sight. Just a vacant space where a source of comfort once stood. The weight of the room felt heavier, pressing down on him, leaving an imprint of fear on his heart. "Is this about the truth?" he ventured, the word trembling on his lips. "What truth?" A chuckle, low and menacing, slipped from the figure. "You're more naive than I anticipated." He leaned closer, the raven-black fabric of his coat brushing against the table. "You want to find something extraordinary? Know this. At times, the extraordinary wears a mask of shadows." The rich man's thoughts muddled with the bitter taste of realization. He had wanted to step into new ventures, to embrace the extraordinary, to find thrill and purpose. But now a fear took root in his gut. What dark reality had he been flirting with? Before he could process it all, the bistro door swung wide, this time with great force. The waitress returned, her face pale as sudden panic crossed her features. "You shouldn't be here," she shouted at the figure. A bolt of tension passed through the air, electrifying the crowd. With commanding energy, she rushed to the rich man's side, pulling him back as if shielding him from impending harm. "I told you to leave," she hissed fiercely. "You don't understand what's at stake." The figure smirked, as if entertained. "But the dance has just begun. The truth is a strange journey, and your heart is just the one I need to guide it." With shock coursing through him, the rich man found himself torn. Should he stand beside the woman he barely knew, or escape the prophetic specter threatening to envelop him? As the waitress locked eyes with him, desperation mirrored in her gaze. The stakes grew higher and the choice loomed before him. Would he step into the darkness or cling to the light? Behind those words, another door creaked open, echoing with the promise of an irrevocable choice. The rich man felt the air thicken around him, every heartbeat echoing louder than before. The waitstaff scurried, their movements jerky, as if they too sensed the heaviness hanging like dark clouds overhead. He needed to make a decision, but his mind raced with turmoil. The figure, the cryptic words, and the pleading gaze of the waitress. "Please," she whispered sharply, urgency cutting through her tone. "You don't know what he can do." Yet, the figure leaned back, arms crossing his chest, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes as if they were all part of his twisted game. "She wants to protect you, but what she fails to understand is that knowledge has a price," he said, a hint of mockery threading his words. "Stop," the waitress shot back, her voice steady despite the quiver in her hands. "You've toyed with enough lives here. Let him go." The rich man swallowed hard, a mix of dread and fascination steering him deeper into the vortex of chaos unraveling around them. "What do you want from me?" he demanded, feeling power pulse through his own voice, only to be swallowed by the tension pooling in the room. "A simple exchange," replied the figure smoothly, "the truth for your secrets." "Everyone has secrets, rich man. I can show you theirs, in return for yours." "Stop," the waitress interjected, moving to place herself between him and the figure. "This isn't a game. You think you can scare him into handing over what's not yours to take?" "Scare?" He chuckled, lips curling with sardonic pleasure. "Oh no, my dear waitress. I merely unveil the inevitable. A dance with shadows is what I offer. To capture your truths, I must bring them to light, and if some are reluctant to share, well, darkness can twist the willing heart." The fear was palpable now, squeezing the rich man's chest tight. He could feel the waitress's anxiety unraveling, could see her resolve wavering as she stood valiantly by his side. "You're not powerless," he whispered just for her. "You can't let him manipulate you." But her gaze didn't waver from the figure, reflecting a flicker of determination. "You have to trust me," she said, and it almost felt like a lifeline amidst the rising storm. The rich man felt adrenaline sharpening his senses. "Show us then," he called out, a newfound surge of defiance rushing through him. "What truth do you want to reveal?" The figure tilted his head, intrigued. "Ah, a bold choice. But know this, the truth is a double-edged sword. It can cut and wound, leaving scars that never heal." The smirk returned, darker this time. "Do you really want to see what lies beneath the surface? Are you prepared for the ugly fragments of your existence to be laid bare?" Every patron in the room seemed to gasp, their breaths hitching all together, strung tight in anticipation of whatever chaos would unfurl next. "Choose wisely," he warned, stepping back into the shadows, a silhouette merging with darkness. "Shall we open the door?" Time slowed as the rich man weighed his options, glancing between the figure and the waitress whose presence gave him a sliver of hope. But it was a shadow that encroached upon him. What hidden hurt could he unearth? "Can we do this together?" he asked the waitress, barely above a whisper but laced with desperation. Then came the figure's final challenge, echoing through the air like the tolling of a grim bell. "The darkness beckons, rich man. Will you step into the abyss or stand in the light, forever ignorant of the truth?" As the tension reached a breaking point, something shifted in the atmosphere, something electric. The doors creaking revealed another presence, one yet unwelcome, and right outside, a warrant for the rich man's truth waited to unfold. What would it reveal once the secrets lived beyond that threshold? Or would it thrust them all into a deeper chaos? With the figure watching, a growing intensity hung like a storm cloud ready to break, and only one choice remained. The rich man's heart raced as the door creaked open. A chill swept through the room, forcing everyone to hold their breath. A police officer stood framed in the doorway, his badge glinting ominously. "We have a warrant for your arrest," he announced calmly, eyes scanning the crowd, locking onto the rich man. Gasps erupted like popcorn in the microwave, panic flickering across the faces of the diners. The waitress turned sharply, eyes wide, searching the rich man's face, but he couldn't focus. The figure, still in the shadows, grinned wider, a predator reveling in the chaos. "What?" the rich man croaked, confusion wrapping around him like a tightening noose. "For what?" The officer stepped inside, his voice steady, unyielding. "For fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. It's time to answer for your crimes." "Crimes?" he echoed, disbelief making his voice tremble. "What about the things he enough?" The figure interrupted, stepping forward, eyes blazing with unholy glee. "Your secrets are no longer safe, rich man. The truth starts now." The tension in the room shifted, a collective intake of breath reverberating through the air like soap bubbles about to burst. The waitress's hand shot up, as if she could shield him from the storm brewing. "You can't take him like this. Not without proof. This is wrong." "Is it?" the figure asked, his tone lilting mockingly. "Or is it merely the beginning of transparency? The rich man has choices, after all." Armed with a boldness that burned brightly amidst the shadows, the rich man turned his gaze back toward the officer. "Wait, I can explain." The officer shook his head, stepping closer. "You'll have a chance to explain in court. But first, I need to take you in." "No, no." The waitress's voice rang with panic. "You don't understand. There's more at play here." "Is there?" the officer countered, unimpressed. "What could possibly matter more than those charges? You're betraying all of us, trying to protect someone who has been lying." The crowd shifted nervously, whispers rippling like a current through their ranks. The rich man shifted uncomfortably, the weight of his secrets pressing down on him. But the figure put a hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps your truth is far more sinister than you know. Or perhaps," he leaned closer, his voice a mere murmur, "the truth could set you free." What did he mean by that? The rich man felt ice slide down his spine. The waitress was watching him intently, her brow furrowed, and her expression a mix of concern and something deeper, something he couldn't pinpoint. He wanted to trust her, but doubt gnawed at his insides. In that split second of paralyzing indecision, the figure spoke again, his tone dripping with mockery. "You could hand over your darkest secret, begin to unravel what holds you captive, and maybe, just maybe, walk out of this unscathed. Or you could keep clinging to your lies, and let the darkness consume you whole." The decision thudded in his chest, heavy and unforgiving. Every second that ticked by felt like an assault, every pair of eyes in the room trained on him, expecting a choice. He glanced toward the officer, then back at the waitress, the weight of the moment crashing down like the waves of a stormy sea. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting shadows that twisted and turned like accusations. Panic surged through the rich man as he faced the abyss before him. In that instant, the world paused. Which would he choose? The path of lies, or the chilling embrace of truth? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a loud crash broke through the tension, a window shattering somewhere in the back of the room. Everyone jumped. All eyes darted toward the sound. "What now?" The figure chuckled softly, leaning back, relishing the chaos unfolding. "The plot thickens. Are you ready for the real game to begin?" And with that, the rich man realized that the secrets he held might unleash far more than he could ever have imagined. What else waited outside the door of truth? Fear laced every thought as he braced himself for what came next. The rich man felt his heart pounding in his chest like a trapped bird. All eyes were now on the broken window, shards of glass glittering dangerously on the floor like fallen stars. What had just happened? A sudden sense of foreboding washed over him. He could feel the figure still behind him, an ever-present shadow, hungry for his next move. "Simon," the officer yelled, jerking the rich man from his spiraling thoughts. "Are you going to cooperate, or do I need to drag you out of here?" But the rich man was distracted, his gaze drifting to the waitress. Her face had changed. No longer just a frightened observer. She stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes blazing with an intensity that caught everyone off guard. "Wait, don't take him yet," she shouted, raising her hands like a superhero rallying her team. The officer hesitated, moving back slightly as the crowd began to murmur restlessly. "And why should I listen to you?" He shot back, annoyance dripping from his voice. "Because," she said, her voice steady, "he is not who you think he is. None of you are. What you know is just the tip of the iceberg." "What do you mean?" scoffed one of the diners, a well-to-do woman with a diamond necklace that glimmered as brightly as her scorn. "You must be joking. He is a criminal." "No," she insisted, glancing at Simon urgently. "He is a victim like us. There is a bigger game being played here, and we're all just pawns." Silence fell over the room, punctuated only by the muffled sound of the traffic outside. The tension was palpable, and for a fleeting moment, everyone forgot about the officer standing there with the warrant in hand. "Lisa, what are you doing?" Simon finally found his voice, the name of the waitress tumbling from his lips like a long-forgotten melody. "You don't understand. If they take me now, they will take us all." Lisa shot back. "Just listen for once. The truth isn't what it seems. There is a conspiracy deeper than this dining room. You're delaying the inevitable." The officer interjected sharply, a frown etching itself onto his stern face. "People like this get nothing but punishment for what they dare to do. Like you dare to stop the truth?" She fired back, her voice cutting through the palpable fear surrounding them. "How can you be sure you have the right man if you don't even know the full story?" "Enough," the officer shouted, his voice echoing in the silence. But Lisa refused to be silenced. "With all due respect, officer, you're out of your depth." Her voice rose above the tension. "I know things, languages, and connections. This goes way beyond just Simon. I can show you. I can help you uncover the layers. But you must listen now." The figure in the shadows shifted, intrigued. Perhaps this young waitress held the key they were all desperate for. For a heartbeat, even the rich man felt hope springing up in his chest. But it came crashing down just as swiftly as it had arrived. "You expect us to believe you?" The officer sneered, eyes narrowing. "What proof do you have?" Lisa took a deep breath, her expression fierce. "You want proof? Follow me." She spun on her heels, heading toward the back of the restaurant, her pace quickening as if she believed in her own urgency. "Wait," Simon shouted. "You can't just leave. What if it's a trap?" But she paused, casting a look over her shoulder. "Either we stand together, or we fall separately. That is how this works." Eyes turned back to the crowd, electric with the promise of revelations. The officer's jaw tightened, torn between his duty and the imploding drama unfolding in front of him. As she turned to leave, the rich man felt himself wavering, the urge to follow pulling at his core. Was it truly riskier to stay? Or was she the only path left to uncovering whatever dark game had ensnared them all? "What choice do I have?" he murmured under his breath, feeling a cold certainty settle over him. And then he stepped forward, the decision made. Would he find his salvation, or merely plunge deeper into the web of deceit? As he moved, the officer struggled to maintain control. "Stop. You're making a mistake." But the door Lisa had exited through was now ajar, the outside world offering a glimmer of hope, or perhaps doom. Would they find answers out there, or just more questions waiting to pull them under? The alleyway behind the restaurant was dark and oppressive, the stench of refuse mixing with the distant sounds of the city. Simon could see Lisa ahead, her silhouette tense and ready to sprint into the unknown. The air hung heavy with uncertainty. The officer's shout still echoed in his ears, a reminder of the choice that loomed ahead. "Wait, I'm coming," he called, his voice nearly swallowed by the shadows. Fear tugged at him, but deeper down, curiosity bloomed. He had never seen her like this, armed not only with conviction, but with something that hung between her words, a hint of knowledge that could shatter the false front of his life. Lisa stopped abruptly, turning to face him. Her eyes flickered with a mix of determination and fear. She seemed ready to bolt at any moment. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, but I can't stay there. If what you say is true, then we need to find out. I can't be just another pawn," he replied, his heart pounding in sync with the quickening cadence of dread. He caught up to her, and they moved deeper into the alley, the glow of the restaurant fading like hope in a dark night. "What about everyone back there?" he pressed as they rounded a corner. "The officer, the diners, they're part of it. Simon, you think this is about you? This goes way beyond us." Her urgency quickened her words, fueling Simon's growing urgency. It was like she held the ignited fuse to a conspiracy waiting to explode. But how? He demanded, frustration creeping into his voice. How can you possibly know this? Lisa stopped again, her gaze locking onto his, searching for conviction. Because, she said, there are whispers everywhere, conversations I've caught that can't be ignored. This isn't just about mistaken identities or fame or fortune. There's something darker underneath it all. It's about control. Power lives being manipulated. And they're using us like pieces on a chessboard. A mechanical whirring noise startled them, both a city bus rounding the corner. They pressed against the damp brick of the alley, hidden from view. The bus passed, and Simon could feel sweat trickling down his back, weighing down his thoughts. So what now? Now we need to get somewhere safe, she replied, her voice laced with urgency. Somewhere that isn't filled with ears listening to every word we say. The warehouse, 2 blocks over. I know a way in, but we need to hurry. The tension was electric as they moved again, keeping low. With every step, he felt the weight of his decision. The officer's words echoed in his mind. People like you get nothing but punishment. As they approached a graffiti-marked door at the end of the alley, Simon's heartbeat surged with every beat. What if we walk into a trap? Lisa turned. What choice do we have? I can't pretend everything's okay, and neither can you. If this is a trap, it's better to know than to wait in ignorance. Another shadow flitted nearby, causing both to freeze. The thrill of danger surged between them, igniting a strange partnership forged in the fires of desperation. Let us go, he whispered, and with one last, deeply shared glance, they pushed through the door. Inside, the atmosphere was thick, heavy with dust and secrets. The dim lights buzzed overhead like angry bees. In the corner, a figure loomed, shrouded in shadow. Simon couldn't tell if they were friend or foe. Then, as the door creaked closed behind them, the figure stepped into the light. Welcome, they said, voice smooth and chilling. I've been expecting you. What had Simon gotten himself into? The air crackled with unanswered questions. Who was this person? What secrets lay hidden in the dimness? The trap had just begun to unfold. The figure took a step forward, revealing an angular face adorned with a crooked smile that sent a chill up Simon's spine. I am Victor, they announced. The name carried weight, but Simon had no clue what that meant. Why were you expecting us? Lisa demanded, breaking the spell of tension binding them to the moment. Victor chuckled, the sound smooth yet icy. You two are quite the talk of the town. The whispers of betrayal, deceit, and hidden agendas have a way of reaching my ears, even in places as discreet as this. Simon clenched his fists. What do you mean? We're not part of your games. Ah, but you are, Victor replied, stepping further into the light. His eyes gleamed like shards of glass. You have become players whether you wanted to or not. Your lives are entwined with the looming storm. The question is, are you ready to navigate its depths? Before Simon could respond, a crash echoed from farther inside the warehouse, tightening the knot in his stomach. Victor turned, ears perked like a hound on the scent. It seems our rendezvous has attracted some unwanted attention. Unwanted? Simon echoed, unease bubbling within him. Like the officer? How deep does this go? Victor smiled knowingly, but it felt more like a predator eyeing its prey. Believe me, Simon, knowledge is as dangerous as it is necessary. Many want to silence the truth. Your decisions tonight will matter far more than you realize. Lisa stepped closer to Simon, whispering, we need to get out of here. Now. Not yet, Victor insisted, moving towards an old door in the corner of the room. I have something for you first. He unlatched the door and flung it open, revealing a cramped room overflowing with papers, files, and a solitary beat-up computer. This is the heart of the operation. Take a look, but make sure you understand this is not just a game. With mounting apprehension, Simon followed Lisa to the doorway, careful with each step. The scent of old paper and grease filled his nostrils. Scattered documents bore names, photographs, and dates. The realization hit him like a punch. These are real people connected to what is going on. We need to expose this. Lisa's hand flew to his arm, urgency etched across her face. But Simon, if we expose it, what happens to us? What if whatever they're involved in comes crashing down on us? Then we make our move first, he said, adrenaline fueling his conviction. I'm not running anymore. I want to be a pawn. Victor's gaze shifted towards the open door, a devious smile still on his lips. Courage is commendable, but I hope you consider the consequences. They can be fatal. Just then, the sharp sound of footsteps rang through the warehouse, echoing ominously. Simon felt his heart race, each thud resonating with dread. He was about to turn toward the sound when Victor raised a finger. Don't. We have company. The air thickened with tension as more shadows converged around the entrance. Simon's thoughts raced. He had jumped into a web he barely understood, and now he was ensnared. Fear gripped him, but even stronger was the fire burning for the truth. Simon, Lisa whispered, breaking his concentration. We have to decide now. Do we run, or do we confront this? In that moment, he thought about the lives caught in the crossfire, the people who would suffer if they remained silent. We confront, he declared with a conviction that surprised even himself. Victor's expression shifted, admiration mixed with something darker flickering in his eyes. Very well. But remember, the truth has teeth. It bites. As the door swung wider, the shadows reached for them with outstretched hands. Get ready, Simon warned, adrenaline thrumming through his veins. And just like that, the storm drew closer. A deep breath was all he could manage before stepping into the chaos waiting beyond. Who would emerge from the darkness? Allies or enemies? And what price would they pay for the truth? The shadows surged forward, each movement carrying the urgency of a storm ready to break. Simon's heart thundered against his ribcage as he put his foot over the threshold into the dimly lit room. The musty air felt thick, suffocating, pulsing with dread and anticipation. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and menacing, an officer. The Stark badge shimmered off the flickering fluorescent light, illuminating the threat. What are you doing here? The officer barked, his hand hovering near his holster, ready to draw. Victor slipped to the side, a ghostly grin spreading across his face. An officer of the law. How delightful, he sneered. Back off, Victor, the officer snapped. I don't care what games you're playing. Simon, Lisa, this is your chance to walk away. Simon swallowed hard, words caught in his throat. The urgency of the moment urged him forward. Behind him, Lisa tensed, her presence a tether of sanity in the chaos. We need to understand what is happening, she urged, trying to keep their focus in the midst of rising tension. Your lives are at stake. The officer shot back, frustration lacing his voice. You don't know who you're dealing with. This isn't a game. Victor stepped closer, drawing the officer's attention. But it is a game to me. You see, the truth is unfolding beautifully. The corner of his mouth curled. And these two, they are integral to the plot. The officer's eyes widened, disbelief flashing across his face. You can't involve them, Victor. They don't deserve this. But it's too late for that, Victor said ominously. He nodded toward the cluttered desk in the cramped room. The files there tell a different story. Investigate and you'll find it leads to corruption that runs deeper than anyone can imagine. Motioning his hand lazily, he turned to Simon and Lisa, his words dripping with mockery. You want to know what happens when you pursue the truth? You get consumed. But by all means, dig in. Behind them, the shadows shifted again, revealing more silhouettes moving toward the doorway. Simon's breath hitched. If they didn't make a decision soon, they would be trapped. Simon, we can't just stand here. Lisa whispered urgently, her eyes darting between the officer and Victor. He could feel the weight of her gaze, the flicker of fear, but there was also a spark of determination. We confront. We need to take these files, expose everything, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. The officer cursed under his breath, knowing full well that time was running out. If you do this, you're signing your own death warrant, he warned, desperation clawing at his throat. Then I'll do it for the people who can't, Simon pushed back, his resolve hardening. Victor laughed, echoing off the barren walls. Courage, how quaint. But remember, sometimes it's not the monster outside but the one inside that consumes you. As the silhouettes stepped forward, the tension pulsed like a heartbeat, a collective anticipation gripping the room. Simon felt a heavy adrenaline coursing through his veins. The choice was made, there would be no escape from this storm. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, resonating from the entrance behind them. The figures moved into view, 3 armed men, their expressions obscured by balaclavas. Simon's stomach dropped. Were they allies or soldiers of Victor's game? Now shall we play? Victor asked, his grin widening as if he relished the chaos unfolding. Run! The officer shouted, fury igniting in his voice, but there was no time. Simon's heart raced as the air thickened with tension and the lines between friend and foe blurred. What would they do next? Would truth become their weapon, or would they be swallowed whole? The chaos erupted like a bomb going off, shattering the tentative calm that had cocooned Simon and Lisa. The moment stretched, a fragile web of anticipation thick in the air, then snapped with the burst of gunfire. Simon's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through him as he instinctively took a step back, pulling Lisa with him into the old, dusty corners of the warehouse. Stay close, he barked, urgency slicing through his panic. Their safety was precarious, and every instinct screamed to flee this darkness. Where do we go? She gasped, wide eyes darting around, desperately searching for an escape route amidst the panicked shadows and flickering lights. Over there. Simon pointed toward a narrow door partially hidden behind a forgotten shelf. Their only chance was to slip away from the chaos, to outpace the danger looming like a dark cloud. They sprinted towards the door, breath stolen by the near miss of another gunshot that ricocheted off the concrete walls. The officer shouted orders to turn back, but Simon pushed forward, ignoring the terror coiling in his gut, the urgency louder than any caution. More focused than ever, they slipped through the half-open door just as the figures moved closer, shadows draping over the threshold like predators lining up for the kill. The narrow corridor was dim, barely illuminated by dripping fluorescent lights. Keep moving, Simon urged, pulling Lisa along, heart pounding like a drum. The echoing chaos grew fainter behind them, but the footsteps of their pursuers thudded closer with menacing intent. They pushed forward, glancing back only to find the officer now locked in a standoff with Victor. The sight twisted Simon's gut. Is he going to be okay? He whispered, concern flickering across his face. We can't worry about that now. We have to focus on us, Lisa replied, determination edging her voice as they continued to flee. She stopped abruptly, pulling Simon to a halt. What if we're leading them right to where we don't want to go? Her eyes were sharp, cutting through the haze of fear. There was a moment of tense silence, the world outside seeming distant and suffocated by dread. What if it's a trap? He murmured, feeling uncertainty creep back into his mind. Then he thought about the files, the truth they had to uncover, and the consequences that weighed heavy with every decision. No, he said firmly, shaking off the doubt. We keep moving. If we can expose what Victor started, we can't let them win. Without another word, they pressed on, navigating through the maze of crates and old machinery, their hearts beating a frantic rhythm in unison. As they stumbled into a larger side room, the shadows shifted again, and they both froze. What loomed in the corner sent a bolt of dread down Simon's spine. A heavy desk stood, papers strewn about, a computer flickering with life. This is it, he muttered, suddenly feeling the grip of destiny. Can you even turn it on? Lisa's unease was palpable, but the glimmer of hope was igniting a fire inside Simon. Just find a way. We can't give them a chance to bury the truth. He rushed to the computer, fingers flitting over the keyboard like a pianist in a frantic symphony. As the screen booted up, images of identities began flashing before him. Every name was a stark reminder of lives at stake, tangled in Victor's web of deceit. With every click, the reality surged, and he could almost hear the whispers of those who had been silenced. Suddenly, a sound echoed from behind heavy boot falls thudding closer. We need to hurry, Lisa urged, her voice a whip of tension. Simon felt time slipping, but so much hung in the balance. He needed one last document that could topple it all. Here, this is it, he shouted, eyes wide. This outlines Victor's entire operation. We can show this. Just then, the door crashed against the wall, splintering as their pursuers stormed in. Simon felt his breath seize in his throat as adrenaline soured into fear. Run, he barked, gesturing to the door on the other side. They dashed, heartbeats sinking with every pounding footstep, every echo amplifying. The stakes that as they barreled through the door, Lisa barely glanced back. We have to safeguard this. They won't stop until just move. Simon interjected sharply, desperation grounding his instincts. They pushed into the alleys, unseen predators behind them, determined to collapse upon everything they sought to unravel. The echoes of the city felt tainted as they ran, strangled by the weight of every choice they made. Would they reveal this truth before it consumed them? Where do we go? Lisa gasped, panting heavily against the brick wall of an alleyway tied with trash and shadows. Somewhere we can breathe, he replied, searching the dim passages for a flicker of hope. With the files duct-taped to their hopes, Simon understood they could either embrace the chaos swirling after them or stand their ground. This was their fight, now a dance with darkness that neither understood, but knew they couldn't abandon. As they sprinted toward the first corner of sight, Simon felt something shift inside him. It wasn't he just running, it was choosing to rise. Whatever comes next, Lisa, we face it together. Let us show them what we're made of. With one last look to the darkness chasing them, they stepped into the brilliant sunlight at the end of the alley, hearts pounding, as if declaring war against the very world that had tried to ensnare them in no longer pawns in a game. They were players ready to unveil every hidden truth, and as they dashed forward into the unknown, a single thought powered them both forward. Victory belonged to the brave. If you want to witness more stories like this unfold, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change everything. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm more powerful tales. We aren't going anywhere without your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Simon and Lisa's next moves. What do you think awaits them? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Are you with us? The adventure has only just begun.